Hello and welcome to another Racquet review. Today I will be reviewing the new head prestiges, the prestiges that launched last year in 2021, and I will go through both the MP, Pro and the Tour all in this video. So if you want to check out one of them, you can skip to that part or you can watch the whole video. So the Prestige line is more of a classic racket line. It's been around since the 1980s, I believe. So it's one of the oldest racket lines that still exist today. And it's been a favorite of a lot of players. In recent times we have Marin Cilic, who uses the old Prestige MP, which is now called the Prestige Pro. But I will go through more about that later. So as I said, Prestiges are more of a classic racket. That means that they often have a constant beam. It doesn't change throughout the racket. So for example, the new Prestige Pro has a beam width of 20 millimeters on through the racket. This creates a bit of a different feel compared to modern rackets like let's say a Pure Strike, which has more pop to it. So these rackets are more control orientated. Of course, some of them have more power and some less, but all in all they have a lot of control, not as much spin potential, and very good precision. So what's new with this racket line from the previous 2019 is the acoustic construction of the racket. All new head rackets that is getting released now updates with this material. Both the new speeds that I have posted previously and the new head boom series. But I think we'll start off with the Head Prestige Pro. So the Head Prestige Pro was before called the Head Prestige MP. It's a bit confusing now when they change the names, but I believe that it's a good change. I always thought that it was weird that they called it MP because it was their heaviest racket, but now it makes more sense, even though it's still confusing. So this racket has a 20 millimeter beam width, as I said. It has a stiffness of 60 RA. Swing weight not that high, it's only 325. Unstrung balance 31 centimeters. Unstrung weight 320 grams, so it's quite a heavy racket. And then they have a head size of 98 square inches, which in previous versions I believe has been 95, but now it's 98, so a bit more bigger sweet spot, more forgiveness, and that's always something to update to this more modern game style and topspin based style game, even though the Prestiges isn't exactly targeted to that type of player, but it's still viable for a broader audience. And of course the racket has a 18 by 20 string pattern. So when I first picked up this racket I felt that it was quite heavy and harder to maneuver and play with. But as the playtest went on, I got more comfortable with it. I got the hang of the timing. So you can definitely see why this is a control racket, because the 18 by 20 string pattern doesn't give you anything for free. And with a small thin beam like 20 millimeters, it's very extremely controlled. But I believe the weight of the racket really makes this more playable. Without extra weight I wouldn't have any power, anything to really throw against the opponent, but with this extra weight it gets more playable, and the swing weight isn't too high, so it's still maneuverable. Of course you can add weight to it to make it even more heavy or heavy overall, but I wouldn't recommend it if you aren't a very advanced player. And even in stock form it's more targeted to a more advanced player, just because of the style of the frame and the heaviness of the frame. So if you like more old school frames, heavy, very controlled, suited for a more flatter play style, I would really recommend this racket because it has a great feel, I haven't tried previous Prestige MP, so I can't compare the two of those, but I really enjoy this racket overall. So next up we have the Prestige Tour, which was previously called the Prestige Pro. So this racket has a smaller head size of 95 square inches. It has a 16 by 19 string pattern, a bit thicker beam of 22 millimeters, and a higher stiffness at 65 RA, and also a bit higher swing weight at 338. And the weight is a bit different. It's 315 grams unstrung, and the balance is 31.5 centimeters unstrung. So this racket I have actually played with before, the 2019 version, so I can compare them slightly to each other. They are very alike, very similar, so it hasn't been a lot of changes. I think the aesthetic material doesn't do a lot, it only changes the feel slightly, but to me it doesn't make a difference playability wise. Just something when you test them by side you can acknowledge, but it doesn't make a difference in terms of playing. So this racket is to me almost a bit more difficult to use, just because of the smaller head size and the smaller sweet spot, and also the higher swing weight makes it less maneuverable and a bit harder to move around on the court, hit volleys and so on, inside out or whatever you're doing. It's a bit harder, I believe, but it offers more power than the Prestige Pro, so that's something plus. So it's more suited for an aggressive style, maybe a bit more modern because you have a 16 by 19 string pattern, so you can generate a lot of more topspin very easily. And something to mention is that it has a very high launch angle, not extremely high, but definitely higher than your average 16 by 19. So it launches the ball quite high, but if you take some time to hit with the racket, you will definitely get used to it. But in the beginning, the launch angle is very high, so you need to adjust in that area. So last we have the Head Prestige MP, which was before called Prestige Tour. It's a bit more forgiving racket. It has a 99 square inch head size, similar to Andy Murray's new racket. And the unstrung weight is 310 grams. The balance is 32 centimeters. The swing weight 334. Stiffness 66 RA, and the beam width is 21.5. So a bit in the middle of the Prestige Tour and the Prestige Pro. And also the string pattern is a 18 by 19. So that's also a hybrid between those two. So you can definitely say that this Prestige MP plays a bit in the middle of the Prestige Tour and the Prestige Pro, because of the more forgiving head size compared to the Prestige Tour, and it also offers power somewhere in the middle, but since it's more forgiving, you can benefit from that power more than in the Prestige Tour, so it's definitely a easier racket to use. And the swing weight still makes the racket a bit clunky and not as maneuverable as I would like. It's a bit difficult to get used to at the start. With all the Prestige rackets, when I served, I had a bit of trouble, at least with the Tour, especially with the Tour and the MP. The Pro was a little bit better, but with the Tour and MP, I had troubles creating racket head speed when serving. I felt really slow as I was beginning my motion, finishing the serve. But in week 2 maybe, after I tried the racket a bit, I actually got used to it and had no troubles with the serve at all actually. So I used to think that it's something that you have to play with and get used to the feeling. It does feel a lot slower in the beginning, but it will be better the more you play with the racket. So I believe that would be all for this racket review actually. And if you have any questions, please ask me in the comments, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this kind of videos, if you want more content from me. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.